Mic check, mic check. Okay, mic check, mic check. One, two, three. Oh, so I am back where I left, and let's see. Okay, so we are at knowledge collapse. Okay, collapse is common to all things: the collapse of house, the collapse of body, and the collapse of your opponent, and of them according to the moment. Collapse. Collapse. Knowledge collapse. Collapse is common all things: the collapse of house, collapse of body, the collapse of opponent. All of them according to the moment are collapse from a discordance of rhythm. In martial arts involving large number, it is essential to grasp the rhythm of your opponent in collapse and to hasten your offensive so that they cannot collapse the moment, escaping the moment or collapsing. They will likely recover. Again, in martial arts of one on one as well, you grasp the moment of collapse in your opponent's changing rhythm. During the fight, if you are negligent enough to miss this, he will recover and begin anew, and you will make no progress. It is essential that you grasp the sign of your opponent's collapse and rush him in certainty so that he will be unable to recover. Your rushing attack must be instantaneous and strong, and you must cut him down with such vigor that he cannot recover. You should understand this. Cutting down with vigor truly, if you miss this action, your mind is silly shelling. You should put efforts into this. Becoming your opponent. Becoming your opponent means thinking as though your body has become that of your opponent. When you look at the world, people are expecting that someone who has committed a robbery and has holed himself up in a house must be a strong opponent. But if you consider from the opponent's view, he is thinking the whole world is against him and that there is no way of escape. The man who has holed himself up in a house is a peasant. The man who is going in to cut him down is a hawk. You should make true efforts in this. Even in martial arts confrontation involving large number, you will be failing in something important. If you think of your opponent is strong, if you have a good number of men understand the principle of the martial arts well and believe deeply that you are going to defeat your opponent, there should be nothing to worry about. In the martial arts of one-on-one as well, you should think in terms of becoming your opponent. If you think you have understood the martial arts well, that you are strong in technique and that you are expert in the way, he is surely thinking that he is going to lose. You should investigate this. Letting go of your hands, letting go of four hands comes into play when both of you and your opponent are of the same mind. You feel as though the fight has come to a stalemate and you are making no progress. Thinking you have come to a stalemate, you should know enough to discard the situation immediately and gain the victory by some other method. Even in martial arts situation involving large number, if you are only intent on grappling, you will make no progress and will inflict injury in your allies. It is important to quickly disregard whatever you are thinking and gain victory by some method, although by your opponent. Again, even in the martial arts of no one on one, when you think you have come to a situation of four hands, it is essential to change your thinking immediately, assess your opponent, and understand how to gain the victory by another method. You should understand this truly. In shadow is when you cannot see through your even in martial arts situation involving large numbers when you cannot see your opponent's situation in a way act as if you are going to attack vigorously and you will see the intention. Once you have seen their intention, it is not easy thing to take the victory by another method. Again, in martial arts situation of one-on-one, when you what behind him or his, if you make a sudden movement as if to strike him, his thought will be manifested with his word. Knowing this manifestation, you will immediately perceive a method and should know victory with certainty. If you are negligent and you will miss the rhythm, you should investigate this. Okay, controlling the light. Controlling the light is applicable when you can see through your opponent's mind as he makes his attack. In martial arts situation involving large numbers, you control your opponent tactic as they are about to execute them. If you show them that you will control their methods with strength, they will be controlled by the strength and change their mind. You can also change your mind, take the initiative from the mind of emptiness and take the victory. Even in martial arts situation, one on one, you can check your opponent's strong intention by the rhythm of your opponent tactic. Grasp a method of victory in his check rhythm and take the initiative. Drawing your opponent in. Being drawn in is something common all things. Becoming sleepy is infectious. Just as yawn and such are infectious, time too is infectious. In martial arts situation involving large number, when your opponent show themselves to be skittish and hurried, you should give an appearance of being not at all affected by this, and rather move all the more leisurely. Your opponent will then be caught up by your actions and will show signs of slacking. When you think they have been drawn in by this, attack quickly and vigorously from the mind of emptiness, and you will gain the victory. Even in the martial arts situation of one on one, if you act slowly with body and mind and then catch the moment when your opponent's attempts, you can take the initiative vigorously and quickly and defeat him. This is an important point. Making them drunk is something that resembles this. So are the mentalities of boredom, sketchiness, and weakening. You should make great effort in this. Agitating your opponent. There are many kinds of agitating. One is feeling of danger. A second is feeling that something is beyond your capability. And third is feeling of the unexpected. You should investigate this fully. In martial arts situation involving large number, it is essential to educate your opponent. It is essential that you attack violently with your opponents are not expecting it. Take advantage of the situation while their minds are unsettled. Grasp this initiative and gain the victory. Again, even in martial arts of one-on-one, show leisureless, leisurely. In the beginning, then suddenly attack vigorously. Following through in your opponent's agitation, you can take the advantage without missing a beat and grasp the victory. This is essential. You should investigate this thoroughly. Imposing fear. Fear resides in all things, and the heart of fear is the unexpected. In martial arts situation involving large number, you do not frighten your opponents with what is right before their eyes. People may be frightened by the voices of things, or they may be frightened by making the small seem larger. Something frightening coming suddenly from the side also induces fear. You should grasp the rhythm of fear and gain victory by using its advantage. Even in the martial arts of one on one, you can frighten an opponent with your body, you can frighten him with your sword, and you can frighten him with your voice. It is essential to do this suddenly when an opponent is not expecting it. Take advantage of the fear. Entangling is when your opponent have approached each other and clashed vigorously, and you can see that the fight is going nowhere. It is essential to the point to immediately intertwine yourself with your opponent and while being mixed up with him, take advantage of the situation and gain the victory. Whether in martial arts situation involving large numbers or one on one, when you and your opponent are set off and then clash with mutual intent but no victory is at hand. It is important to mix it with your opponent immediately, making sure that you cannot become disengaged. Then seize the advantage of the situation, understand how you can win on the spot, and take the victory vigorously. You should investigate. Touching the corner. Touching the corner refers to the difficulty of forcing your way directly when pressing against anything strong. In martial arts situation involving large numbers, assess the number of your opponents. Hit the corner of the place where they has struck out vigorously. You should be able to grasp the advantage as the corner begins to distance. So will the entire body. It is essential that as the strength fails, you grasp the victory by staying intent on the corner. Even in the martial arts of one-on-one, inflict a wound on corner of your opponent's body, and his body grows a little weaker, and it's begin to slump. Victory will be an easy matter. You should investigate this way. Should it is important in securing the victory. Causing confusion. Causing confusion means acting so that your opponent mind become uncertain. In martial arts situations involving large number of the on the battlefield, gauge your opponent's mind and with the strength of your own wisdom in the martial arts, send his mind in different directions, make him think various things, and have him wonder if you will be slow or quick. When you grasp the rhythm of his confusion, this concern your point of victory with certainty. Again, in the martial arts of one-on-one, seize the moment and execute various techniques, feigning strike and stabs and rushing in. When you see the signs of your opponent's confusion, take the victory freely. This is specialty of battle you should investigate. The three voices. The three voices are divided and called the beginning, middle, and later voices. Shouting is essential according to the situation. Voice adds the element of energy. So people shout at fires, great winds, and large waves. Voice manifests. In martial arts situation involving large number, the shouts at the beginning of the battle are given as vigorously as possible to intimidate your opponents. The shouts in the middle of the battle lower the pitch are given from very depths. After defeating your opponent, another great shout is given vigorously. These are the three voices. Again, even in the martial arts of one-on-one, you feign a strike and yell "Hey" at the every beginning in order to incite your opponent to move. You then strike with your sword after you have yelled. Again, the yell you give after you have struck your opponent is an expression of victory. These are called the beginning and later voice. You do not give a great yell at the same time. You strike with your sword. If you yell during a battle, it is done with a low voice. In order to ride its rhythm, you should investigate this thoroughly. Mixing in occurs in battles when with large numbers. When the troops have clashed and you see that your opponent is strong, you mix in when you attack one point of your opponent and seeing that it has collapsed, you leave it and strike at other strong points. Generally, the heart of this is zigzagging attacks. In the martial arts on a smaller scale, this mentality is essential for when you are facing a group alone. Sorry. You won't simply defeat one single opponent, but rout one after another. Always attack another strong opponent. Grasp one man's rhythm and with your own good rhythm. Zigzag to the left and right. Attacks as you read your opponent's expression. When you grasp your opponent's condition and rushing, be intent on taking the victory vigorously without the least bit of a retreat. This mentality is also for when you clash with a single strong opponent. The heart of mixing in is not knowing a single step of retreat and getting lost in the crowd. Crushing. Smashing your opponent completely even if it seems weak and you are strong is called crushing. In martial arts situations involving large numbers, when you perceive that your opponents are few in numbers or even should they be numerous, once you have confused them and found their weakness, you crush them. In other words, from the very beginning, you are intent on intimidating them and crush them completely. If your crushing is weak, they will be able to rally. The heart of this is to grasp what you have in hand and crush them. You should understand this truly. Again, when you are in one-on-one martial arts situation, if your opponent is inferior to you, or his rhythm is broken, or if he appears as though he is going to retreat, it is essential that you crush him immediately, without letting him catch his breath or even letting him glance at you. It is your primary consideration to not let him recover even a little. You should investigate this one. Mountains and seas. The heart of mountains and seas is that it is wrong to use the same tactic repeatedly during a fight between you and your opponent. Using the same tactic twice is unavoidable, but you should not use in three times. If you use a technique on your opponent and it is not successful the first time, it will have no effect. Perform him once more when the same move. Attack suddenly with a different technique, and if that has no effect, you should use yet a different one. Thus, if your opponent is thinking mountains attacks with seas, and he is thinking seas attack with mountains, this is the heart of the way of the martial art. You should invest. Piercing the bottom. In fighting your opponents and using the principle of this way, there may be times when you appear to be winning on the surface, but hostility remains in your opponent's mind. Accordingly, he may be defeated on the surface, but not at all in the bottom of his mind. In such situations, it is important that you suddenly adjust your own mind, destroy your opponent's spirit, and make sure that has been defeated in the very bottom of his heart. This piercing of the bottom can be done with the sword, the body, or the mind. It cannot be defined sweepingly. When your opponent has collapsed from the bottom of his heart, it is not necessary for you to remain intent. But if he has not, you must remain alert. It will be difficult for your opponent to collapse completely if something remains in his mind. For the martial arts of both large number and one-on-one, you should practice piercing the bottom thoroughly. When you and your opponent are fighting and nothing is going right, nor is there progress, be of mind to throw off your former intention and start entirely anew. Take on another rhythm and see your way to victory. With renewal, whenever you think that you and your opponent are just grating along, you should change your mind on the spot and take the victory by using another tactic. In martial arts involving large number as well, it is essential to discussion a point of renewal. It is matter of using your strength of knowledge of the martial arts and seeing through time things immediately. You should investigate. Okay. Head of a rat, neck of a bull. Head of a rat and neck of a bull. Head of a rat, neck of a bull applies when you are in battle with your opponent and you are both entangled in the head of rat, neck of bull applies when you are in battle with your opponent and you are both entangled in concentrating on the final details, yet you feel that you are going nowhere in the way of martial arts. You must consider head of red neck of a bull constant integrity. No matter how engrossed in the details you are, you should suddenly show great heart and exchange the great and the small. This is one of the disposition of the martial arts. It is essential for the warrior, even though ordinary soldier, to think in these terms. You should never depart from the mentality, whether in martial arts involving great numbers or in those of one. You should investigate. Okay. The general knows the soldier. In order to fulfill your intention and regardless of what kind of fight you may be involved in, you must always put into practice the good. The general knows the soldier. Grasp the strength of wisdom of the martial arts and consider your opponents as your own soldier. Accordingly, you should make them follow your own intention, move them around freely. When you think in these terms, you become the general and you know opponents become your soldier. You should make efforts in this. Releasing the hilt of the sword. There are various meanings to releasing the heat of the sword. There is the understanding of winning without a sword and the understanding of not winning. Though you have a sword, there are various meanings, but I will not write them all down. You should practice this. Body of a rocky graph. Body of a rocky graph refers to how grasping the way of the martial arts, you suddenly become like a rocky crag, unmoving, struck by nothing. This is an oral tradition. The above is what I have written concerning my own style of sportsmanship, and is something I have thought over unceasingly. I have written these principles down for the first time, so the order in which they are noticed is confused and it is difficult to discuss them in detail. Nevertheless, they should become mental signposts for the person who would study this way. From the time I was young, I have set my mind in the way of a martial arts. Practice the one subject of swordmanship with my entire being and experience various and different understanding. Looking into other styles, I have found that they were either speakings and clever pretexts or demonstrating detail and maneuvers while they looked good to the eye. None of them had the heart of truth, of course. You may think it good to learn such things and to practice them with both body and mind, but they all become injurious to the way and will be impossible to wipe away even in distant generation. Accordingly, they will corrupt the true way of martial arts in the world and will be the cause of its abandonment. The true way of swordsmanship is to fight with your opponent and win, and this should not be changed in slightest. If you grasp the strength of wisdom of my martial arts and put it directly into practice, this should be no doubt of victory. Okay, so I am at the wind chapter. Just look at this. In the martial arts, you know the way of other styles. As I write about these other styles of martial arts here, I have designated designated this as the wind chapter. It would be quite difficult to understand the way of my martial art without knowing the way of others. When you inquire into the other martial arts, you see that there are styles that base their techniques on grasping a long, a large long sword and specializing in strength. There are others that use a small long sword that is in short long sword and exert themselves in their way. There are yet others who make contrivances, contrivances with many sword techniques and teach their way by stances with the sword saying, these are the outer stances, these are the inner. In this chapter, I will express with certainty that none of these are the true way and will show you what is good and what is bad, what is based on principle and what is not. The rationale of my own school is completely different. The other schools get along with this as a performance art, as a method of making a living, as a colorful decoration, or as a means of forcing flowers to bloom. Yet, can it be the true way if it has been made into a sellable item? Moreover, the other martial arts in the world only give fine attention to swordmanship, teaching way of handling the sword, body postures, or hand positions. Can you understand how to win by these things? None of them are the unfailing way. In this chapter, I will write down the deficiencies of the other stalls one by one. Investigating this truly, you should understand the advantages of the two sword style. Carrying a long sword is in other style. There are other styles that prefer as a long sword from the standpoint of my own martial arts. This can be seen as weak style. The reason is that not knowing how to defeat others in any situation, they put virtue in the length of the sword and think they can win by their distance from their opponent. For this reason, they prefer a long sword. The common saying, a hand longer by an inch has the advantage. A hand longer by an inch advantage is but informative, quoted by those who do not know the martial arts. Without knowing the principle of the martial arts, they could win at a distance by using a longer sword. Because of their weak hearts, this can be seen as a weak martial art. When your opponent rushes in close, the longer your sword, the less efficient it becomes. Accordingly, you will be unable to handle your sword freely. It becomes only so much baggage, and you will be at a disadvantage to man brands when brandishing a small short sword. Those who prefer long swords will have their explanation, but it is only their own individual quibbling. It is unreasonable when seen from the true way in this world. Would you be sure to lose if you do not carry a long sword but carried a short one instead? But according to the situation, what if you were in a place closed in the top, bottom, and side likewise? If you were intent on preferring length and had only a shorter sword, you might come to doubt your martial art and enter a bad frame of mind. Depending on the person, there may be those who with less strength. Yet it has been said since ancient times that the large goes together with the small. This is then not a matter of disliking the long unreasonably, but a matter of disliking the mind that prefers for long. A long sword is like having many men in martial arts situation involving large number, while a shorter sword is like having a few men to large and small forces not meet in battle. There are many examples of small forces defeating larger ones. In martial arts, we dislike such one-sidedness and narrowness of mind. You should investigate. Okay. Using the sword forcefully in other style. Using the sword forcefully in other style. There should be no such thing as forceful or weak strokes with the sword. The more the sword handled with a forceful frame of mind is going to be rough, and it is difficult to win with roughness alone. Moreover, when you go to cut someone forcefully with your sword, you will try to cut with unreasonable strength, and this will not be the right mentality for cutting it all. It is wrong to cut with great strength even when you are testing your blade. When you when you cross swords with an opponent, no matter who is, do not think about cutting forcefully or weakly. Simply when you consider cutting someone down, do not use a forceful frame of mind, nor of course a weak one. Think only so far as your opponent dying. If both you and your opponent striking forcefully with your sword, the strain will be too much and the result turned out to be bad. If you hit someone's sword forcefully, your own sword will probably break as well. Therefore, do not use your sword forcefully. Even in a martial arts situation involving large number of your thinking of going into battle with a strong number of men, your opponent will likely be thinking of doing the same accordingly. Which side will be glove? In my style, you do not think about overdoing anything in the list, but intent on winning the intuition by a strength of knowledge of the martial art. You should make this well. Using the short sword in other styles. To think that you will win using only a short sword is not the true way. Since times past, the term long sword and sword have been used to express how long or shorter a blade is. In this world, people of great strength are able to easily handle a long sword, and so there is no need for them to unreasonably prefer a short sword. Accordingly, for the sake of length, you carry a spear or a long sword. With shorter long swords, people think they can thread their way through the gaps of other flying regular swords, dash into their midst and lay hold of their opponents. But this one-sided thinking and wrong. Moreover, aiming at unguarded moments can be considered the same as being constantly on the defensive. This is undesirable because your mind becomes entangled. It will be useless in the middle of a large number of opponents to take a short sword and rush into their midst, hoping to take a trophy. Some may think they can use a short sword to cut their way into a large crowd, leaping and moving around, but they will always be in the defensive and entangled. This is not the sure way. All things being the same, mine is a way which it is important that you attack vigorously and directly chasing your opponent around, making them jump back and confusing them and gaining the victory with certainty. The principle applies as well in martial arts situation involving large numbers. All things being the same, it is essential point the martial arts that you are intent on rushing into your opponents quickly with a large number of men and crushing those opponents immediately. When people in this world study these things, they ordinarily learn parrying, dodging, withdrawing, and evading, but this draw their minds from the way and allow them to be pushed around by others because the way of martial art is direct and true. It is essential that you be intent on pursuing others and subjugating them with true principles. You should investigate this truly. Using many techniques with the sword in other styles. Teaching people many techniques with the sword makes the way into a sellable item. In this world, there are extraordinary ways of cutting someone down for those who know, for those who don't know, for women and children as well. Using other stances with the sword. It is harmful to specialize in stances with the sword. In this world, taking stances should be done when there is no opponent present. The reason for this is that In examples from the past and practices from today, establishing hard and fast rules is not the way of victory. The way is devising difficulties for your opponent. In all things, the heart of taking a stance is not being moved. The idea of taking stance at a castle in battle array, for example, is that you stand strongly unmoved even though you are attacked. This is normal. In the way of victory through the martial arts, you are intent on taking the initiative, always the initiative. In all things, the heart of taking your stances is in waiting for the initiative. You should make truly efforts in this. In the way of victory through the martial arts, you move the other person's stance. You do something your opponent is not expecting. Frustrate him, make him uncomfortable, threaten him, or grasp the rhythm of his confusion. If you size the victory in this way, taking a stance will be understood as taking the defensive, and this will be undesirable. Accordingly, my main way of stance, no stance, which is to say taking the stance by having no stance at all. Know the abilities of your own men and grasping the virtues of these things. Set up your men and start the fight. What doubles the chances of winning or losing is whether the other side takes the initiative or you yourself take the initiative. To think that you will keep take up a fine stance with the sword, adroitly parry your opponent's sword and then strike him well is the same as using spears as long sword as boards in a palisade. Again, the crux of this is that when you strike your opponent, you can pull up a board from a palisade and use it as a super and a long sword. You should investigate this thoroughly. हेलो. हाँ हाँ घरे घरे मत गाड़ी. नहीं આજે તો નહીં આવું પછી આપણે આજે પેલું લેવાનું છે ને તા ઘરે ઘરે ખાવાનું બનાવી દીધેલું. હા વીકેન્ડની તો હા સન્ડે રહે. હા ને તો તમે આવી જાઓ ને હમણાં. Oh, there is no noise cancellation in this microphone. I don't know why. There is actually some. There are many modes. Let me just check. This is mode one. Mic test. Mic test. 2. Mic check. Mic check. 3. Mic check. Mic check. 'Fixing the eyes in other styles'. How to fix the eyes according to the style. Some fix their eye on their opponent's wall, while in other hands, they fix their eyes on their opponent's hand. This as they fix their eyes on one special confuse the mind and pose a melody to the martial arts. This is the reason although those who play Kemari do not fix their eyes on the ball, they are able to execute the difficult techniques of the game because they have become accustomed to it. It is not a matter of certain place to look. For the techniques of people doing acrobatic tricks, each becomes accustomed to their way. Whether it is it to be balancing and sliding door in the nose or juggling a number of swords. For such plays, it's natural because they have practiced habitually in the way of martial arts and as well by becoming used to fighting with different opponents by learning the properties of man's mind and by grasping the practice of the way you will be able to see through the distance and speed of his sword. Fixing the eyes in the martial art is looking into the large picture of a man's mind. In martial art situations involving large numbers, set your eyes on the abilities and condition of your opponent's mind. Of the two ways of observation and seeing, the eye of observation is the strongest. It's essential that you take the victory straight way by seeing the mind of your opponent and the condition of the place by fixing your eyes broadly and by seeing the condition of the battlefield and its different possible strength and weakness. In the martial arts of both large number and one-on-one, do not fix the eye with a narrow focus as mentioned before. If you fix the eye with a detailed narrow focus, you will miss the large picture. Create for yourself a confused mind and be strived of a sure victory. You should investigate the principle truly and put them into practice. Use of the fleet in other styles. In the use of the fleet, there are various quick ways of use the fleet. floating feet, leaping feet, springing feet, stamping feet, or crow's feet. From the viewpoint of my own martial arts, I think them all to be insufficient. Floating feet is undesirable because when engaged in a fight, your feet will very likely have a tendency to feel loose. Accordingly, my way is to step with all the other stability as for the undesirability of leaping feet. When you leap up using this step, your mind will become absurd in the action of leaping, and so there is no reason for you to leap up many times anyway. Leaping feet is wrong. As for surprising feet. Again, if your mind is set on springing, it will go no farther than the stamping feet as a step of waiting is particularly undesirable. Other than this, there are various other quick steps like the crossfit. You may cross road with an opponent in swamps, damp land, mountains, river, pebbles, plains, or narrow roads, depending on the place. There may be no leaping or springing, and there will be places where you will not be able to take quick steps at all. There is no change in your steps in my martial arts. It is like your usual walking on road. Following your opponent's rhythm, you should grasp the condition and ability of his body, both when he is hurried and when he is at ease, and then move. Neither there's instantly nor too much without stepping over yourself. Managing your steps is essential as well in martial arts situation involving large number. Here is the reason when you attack quickly and indiscriminately without knowing the mind of whoever. If your steps are too slow, you will not detect the moment when your opponent may be flustered and fall apart. Victory will escape you and you will be unable to win quickly. It is essential to take the victory by seeing through to the places of your opponent by not giving him a moment to collect himself. You should practice this thoroughly. Using speed in other styles. Speed is the martial art is not the true way. Concerning speed, we say that something is fast or slow. This misses the rhythm of things. If someone is skilled in this way, he does not appear to be fast. For example, if someone is said to be fast on the road, he may cover a distance of 40 or 50. Yet this is not matter of running fast from morning till night. A man unskilled on the road may run all day long but will not make much progress. A man unskilled on the road may run all day but not. In the dance of no drama, if a skilled person is chanting and an unskilled person accompanies him, the latter will feel as though he is falling behind and will then become hurried. Also in the play of Koimatsu. Go small and large drum instrumental, but an unskilled player will feel behind or ahead at the beat is done. In the play Takasago Takesago. But it is wrong to go too fast. Run fast and you will fall down once again missing the beat. Of course, being slow is also wrong. Here too a skillful person may appear slow, but he is never off the beat. No matter what a well trained person does, he never appears hurried. With this example, you should understand the principle of the way. In the way of the martial arts, particularly, it is bad to go fast. The reason for this is according to the place, there may be swamps or dams areas. It may be difficult for either body or feet to go fast. It will be all the more impossible to cut someone down quickly with your sword. If you try to cut him down quickly, it will not be done as if using a fan or a short sword. Accordingly, if you make to cut quickly. You will not cut at all. You should understand this slowly. In martial arts situation involving large number, it is wrong to have a mentality of fast or slow. With the mind of pressing down the pillow, you will not go slowly at all. Again, if someone is indiscriminately fast, it is essential that you counter this. Become tranquil yourself and not be pulled into the speed by him. Use interior and exterior in other styles. In the martial arts, what is meant by exterior and what is meant by interior, according to the art or what you touch upon. These terms speak of esoteric meanings and sacred as well as references to the interior. But when it comes to the principles of crossing swords,